Welcome to New Sky TV. It exploded. A casual snapshot from his assistant reveals Wang Haozhen's unspoken feelings. Knee to knee, they sit so intimately, Wang Haozhen carefully protecting Guo Yuxin, his shy smile and adorable eyes revealing his affection. That's how obvious it is to like someone. Wang Haozhen's tender details towards Guo Yuxin on set are fully exposed. When the video, dubbed a casual snapshot from his assistant, surfaced, many people's first reaction wasn't shock, but an uncontrollable heartbeat. Because it was so real that it didn't feel like a promotional video, a business transaction, or a carefully crafted sweet moment compilation, but rather a man expressing his feelings for Guo Yuxin through his body language without any warning. The camera is shaky, and the image quality isn't great, but it's precisely this imperfection that makes everything so captivating. Wang Haozhen sits next to Guo Yuxin, his position not deliberate, but just right. Knee to knee, no pulling away, no shifting, not even a hint of instinctive defensiveness. You know, if someone is uncomfortable, their body will move away first, but he didn't. He even slightly turned his body, as if subconsciously shielding her from the crowds behind them. Most striking was his gaze. Their eyes met for less than a second before he immediately lowered his head and smiled. Not the polished smile for the camera, but a slightly flustered, slightly embarrassed, silly smile, even his ears turning slightly red. At that moment, all explanations of ordinary co-stars seemed pale and powerless, because true acting is about controlling facial expressions, not conditioned reflexes. Those familiar with Wang Haozhen know that even in the sweetest scenes, his eyes were always restrained. Deep affection was there, but it was controlled, steady, and professional, never crossing the line. But this time was different. A casual snapshot by his assistant captured his most vulnerable moment. His eyes were incredibly bright, his gaze constantly drifting towards Guo Yuxin, only to quickly look away the moment he was noticed, like a boy whose secret had been exposed. And Guo Yuxin? She seemed carefree, but her reaction was equally honest. She didn't deliberately avoid his approach. Instead, when he smiled with his head down, the corners of her mouth curved up in response. That smile wasn't a mere agreement, but a natural reaction to the infectious emotion. She would occasionally glance up at him, then quickly look away, as if confirming something, or perhaps tacitly acknowledging something. What truly captivated netizens was their surroundings. The set was noisy, with staff constantly moving about, yet they seemed isolated in a quiet little world. The outside noise was irrelevant to them. Knee to knee, smiles flowed in the air, their intimacy effortless. It's no surprise the comment section exploded. Some said it was practically an official announcement, others joked that Wang Haozhen had finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Many more began scrutinizing his eyes frame by frame, saying that the light in his eyes couldn't lie, the body is the most honest, and so is affection. Perhaps this is what truly captivated everyone. It wasn't the sweetness of the plot, but in those few seconds, we witnessed a person's genuine reaction after letting down their guard. It wasn't acted ambiguity, but an undeniable flutter of the heart. Some even jokingly said that Wang Haozhen's cool and aloof god persona had completely crumbled this time. Where was the slightest hint of aloofness in his eyes? His silly grin, shyness, and awkwardness were all written on his face, a contrast so striking it was instantly captivating. Viewers more familiar with his previous style were more easily struck by this unguarded side. It turns out that when you truly like someone, even the most composed person can lose control. The most obvious sign was his physical state. When Guo Yuxin leaned against him, he visibly relaxed, his shoulders were no longer tense, and his smile softened. That smile wasn't deliberately trying to amuse, but a natural reaction to being comforted and healed by companionship. Especially his hand holding the chair, which never loosened its grip, not forcefully, but steadily protecting her, as if subconsciously shielding her from all her anxieties. Many people started rewatching their previous drama together. The sweetness on screen was just right, and while there weren't many clues at the time, looking back now reveals many subtle details that were already there. Those overlooked glances, those slightly lingering moments, weren't accidental, it's just that no one realized it yet. The sweetness had been slowly brewing in reality all along. Even more captivating was the contrast during breaks on set. While others were either glued to their phones or catching up on sleep, the two of them seemed oblivious to time. Wang Haozhen's gaze almost never left Guo Yuxin. When she smiled, he immediately smiled back. When she spoke, he would unconsciously move closer, afraid of missing a single word. That focus was so obvious that it didn't need any words. No wonder the assistant crashed. What was originally just a casual record of daily work unexpectedly captured the most genuine emotional flow. After the video went viral, fans went completely crazy. Some fast-forwarded frame by frame, some repeatedly replayed those few moments of eye contact, and some couldn't help but exclaim, "True attraction doesn't need filters." Even more ruthless were the comparison enthusiasts. Some dug up past behind-the-scenes photos of him with other actresses, discovering that no matter how intimate the scenes, he always maintained a polite distance off-screen. But with Guo Yuxin, that safety line seemed to disappear automatically. It wasn't a deliberate crossing of the line, but rather a forgetting of it. Eyes followed, bodies drew closer, even smiles changed. That's why everyone said this time it wasn't just being obsessed with the couple, but being struck by the realism. Because feelings can be acted out for a moment, but not in the details. Eyes brighten, hands hesitate, laughter becomes uncontrollable. When someone is truly in love, no matter how much they try to restrain themselves, their body will give them a heads up. One is steady and considerate, the other lively and adorable, sitting together, the distance just right, occasionally exchanging silly smiles. The scene wasn't overly sweet, but incredibly comfortable to watch. It wasn't a deliberate, staged intimacy, but a habitual closeness, as if they had already accepted each other's presence. And that's why, after the video spread, everyone collectively focused on this couple. The comments section was almost unanimously filled with expressions of adoration. Some called it unintentional, irrefutable evidence, while others exclaimed that the assistant was practically a CP fan leader, casually snapping a photo and sending the truth trending. Liking someone is impossible to hide, especially when you're caught off guard, and this time, Wang Haozhen was completely exposed. The most poignant scene was when Guo Yuxin was looking down at her phone. She wasn't deliberately trying to start a conversation or create interaction, yet Wang Haozhen's gaze remained fixed on her. He looked quietly, but the corners of his mouth unconsciously turned up, his eyes crinkling, a slightly silly, sweet smile, as if simply being right there made him feel good. That expression couldn't lie. When their eyes occasionally met, he immediately looked down, his ears slightly red, as if caught red-handed. This reaction was so real, that it instantly pulled the viewer out of the story. This wasn't the behavior of a normal co-star, it was clearly the panic and shyness of having his feelings exposed. Those familiar with his past could see that this time was truly different. Previously, when acting with other actresses, even in the sweetest scenes, his gaze was always required by the character, professional, restrained, and subtle. But this time, a casual snapshot by his assistant captured his most authentic self, no trace of acting, no pretense of a persona, only an unconscious attentiveness and undisguised affection. Guo Yuxin, seemingly carefree, reacted equally gently. Occasionally, she would glance up at him, and upon noticing his gaze, she couldn't help but smile. There was no deliberate avoidance, no feigned composure, she simply responded naturally to his gaze. The two of them gazed at each other, the surrounding staff coming and going, the set noisy and busy, yet they seemed isolated in their own little world. Even at such close proximity, there was not a trace of awkwardness. That intimacy was natural, needing no explanation. It was a state that only arises from true relaxation and genuine attraction. No wonder everyone says that this isn't just crazy about shipping, but rather a genuine, heart-fluttering experience in real life. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next video. Thank you.